Hello, welcome to Mitch's Rant Time, the show where I talk and you listen. Thank you. As always, I do get vulgar. I bring up very offensive or controversial topics. So if you are uncomfortable with anything I have to say, you're welcome to leave. But I'm not going to change anything I want to say for you. Shake hands, that's the deal. Um, Something I'd like to really talk about, and I see it a lot, is a misrepresentation of libertarianism. And I, I need to really address this because a lot of people. I mean, I consider myself a libertarian. I'm not maybe the ideal libertarian or an extreme libertarian on any extreme area. Fairly moderate libertarian. I consider myself a classic liberal and more of a constitutionalist who's willing to be independent of any political party. But I identify with libertarianism. I agree with a lot of the platforms, or at least the basic uh, slogans or policies, basic ideas that are presented by the libertarian idea, and it gets confused with so many things, and it depends on what side you're on. And I always manage when I'm debating with people, and I come in, people don't even know I'm a libertarian, and just based on my stance, I get wrongfully it's wrongfully assumed that I'm one party or one ideology or one religion or whatever, and that's a completely different topic for another day. But anytime I bring up I'm a libertarian, assumptions are made as well, and again that follows another topic for another day. But it's something I'd like to bring up because I hear people talk about libertarians a lot. I hear people talk about libertarians in a positive way, yet they don't understand what libertarians are. I hear people talk about libertarians in a negative way, and they don't understand what libertarians are. Um, I hear people throw around names and say they're libertarian, and they're wrong. I hear people call themselves libertarian, and they're wrong. Not to say that you can't be what you want, but as we can all tell, I'm not African American. You know, I'm white, so I could say I'm black all I want, but I'm not. Um, I'm 5'8". That's measurable. I could say I'm 6 foot, but I'm not. I'm overweight. Can't really see it black, but I'm overweight. About 40 pounds overweight. I'd like to say I'm not overweight, that I'm skinny, but we can tell I'm not. There are just certain things that are you just can't deny. I can't, the house. I'm in a building, um, the roof and floors and walls and a door. You can't say that I'm not. So there are just certain times when someone needs to be corrected. Hopefully they'll stand corrected. They don't typically, but hopefully they stand corrected. So first, we'll talk about those who talk negatively about libertarians because I think that's a good start. We'll go into the people who talk positively. Um, a lot of progressives or liberals, I identify as liberal, so I don't see liberal as negatively as I used to when I was conservative. But as liberals and progressives like to say how bad libertarianism is, they talk about it as if it's an extreme anarcho-capitalism. And not to say that there aren't a lot of extreme anarcho-capitalists, um, Keynesian economic, using those Keynesian economics, libertarians, they do. They very laissez-faire, very hands off, near dissolution of government involvement of government. Not all libertarians are anarchists. Not all libertarians wish to just do away with everything. It's not libertarian to just say, well, I don't want to have a government I want to limit government, so I'm going to take a hatchet, and just start cutting things willy nilly. That's not what we do. Some do to a certain point, but they typically have at least a reason in their mind that justifies what they do. Um, and sometimes I think they're just attacked because obviously they're doing something they don't like. They want to cut a program or limit a program or a area of government or funding or whatever part of the budget that the person attacking doesn't want to be gone. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're just an anarchist, and it's kind of that false assumption. Um, Me saying that I would like to fire the IRS because the IRS is actually private, and to maybe turn it just into a 50-person operation under the Department of the Treasury, under the Secretary of Treasury, that is very limited. I want to limit the tax code as much as possible. That's not me just being an anarcho-capitalist. That's not me being an anarcho-capitalist. That's just me wanting to cut the IRS and make our tax code and the way we do taxes and collect taxes and our taxation, our laws and everything simpler. And there are multiple reasons why. I'll get into that another time when I go over another budget episode. I didn't do very well in my last one. But it's not just that. We also don't believe in just straight anarchy. There are some anarchist libertarians. There are libertarians who identify. There's anarchists, minarchists, classically liberal, moderate, and then this Glenn Beck and Rand Paul. Those there, which are paleo-conservatives, which aren't really. They're the technically farthest left libertarians, if you want to give it a sort of false extreme, just to give it a sort of a diagram goal. But it's not anarchy in the way you think, because this is more the conservative side, because conservatives will talk to a libertarian about things like marijuana or marriage rights or reproductive rights, and a libertarian will say, well, no, people have the right to choose what they want to do with their family, their body. They have the right to choose how they want to build their family, who they want to marry. If consenting adults want to get married, I don't care if 2 or 5 or 6 or 8, or if they're all the same gender or multiple gender, if one's a transgender and one's, you got a transgender lesbian marrying a gay man. I don't care. If they want to get married, they can get married. The argument isn't about anarchy, though. It's not just because I believe in equality for everybody doesn't mean that I'm an anarchist who wants just everybody can do everything. I'm actually very much against the anarchical side of libertarianism, which is why I consider myself classically liberal or moderate. Again, I like the principal idea. I like that it's the ideological goal, but it's not realistic. Just like progressivism, the ideological goal, everybody's taken care of, everybody's equal. Can't get that way. There's no real way to do it. Conservatism, the government is limited, and the government doesn't do anything. We don't spend a whole lot of money, and everybody's moral. Well, that's great, but it doesn't work that way. There's realistic implications everywhere. So when it comes to that, that's another thing for another day too. But I'm not an anarchist because I believe in equality. I'd be an anarchist if I said that I don't need government at all. And I used to think that way too. When I first really started becoming libertarian, I wasn't an anarchist. I was like, fuck the government, I don't need fucking government, I don't need anybody. But I started to realize, when I started to really read up on the writings of people like Thomas Paine, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, Adam, all of them, well, not all of them, but them, reading up on philosophy too, and just studying the way governments are, especially modern American government and some other governments, I learned that, well, you need government to a certain point. Because it's not just about government, it's about people. And, there's a certain way, but you want to limit it. You don't want an oversized government, but at the same time, you also don't want to limit it to a minuscule amount that cannot be useful, to where you're just sending tax dollars to someone who's not going to do anything. And in a way, it's the same whether it's minuscule or gargantuan. But again, that's an argument for another day. Libertarianism, while there are anarchist ideas It's not anarchism. It's not anarchy. It's not a belief in taking everything away. It's limiting it to the minimum possible instead of the maximum possible. Where authoritarianism is the maximum government possible to sustain order. Libertarianism is the minimum government possible to sustain liberty. But you still have to sustain protections of those liberties and equal protections of those liberties. And there are other things I identify with too, like egalitarian, constitutional, stuff like that, that sometimes cut, bump with certain libertarian ideas I have. But it still is about limiting government to the minimum possible. And to me, that sounds a great idea. To others, we need maximum government. Government needs to take care of it. We need people who are put into who we vote on or who we deem worthy, whether it's by vote or background check or application, whatever. And I understand that. It's not a bad, evil idea to say, well, maybe there are people better than us qualified, to go to govern us, to be watchmen. But the question is, who watches the watchmen? And the sad thing is, who watches the citizens? It's a vicious cycle. But again, we'll get to that another time. I do that a lot in my video. But libertarianism is not anarchy. It is a belief in limited government. So, to those who say negative and say, well, it's anarchy, it's just running wild, you just want to cut government, you hate the poor, you hate Christians, you hate whatever. No. There are libertarian Christians, there are poor libertarians. I'm kind of a poor libertarian. There are libertarians are just as diverse as any other political group. They just believe in a certain set of principles, and they're not anarchists, just as progressives aren't communists, conservatives aren't fascists, and the right-left line isn't authoritarian. It's closer to authoritarianism than libertarianism is, but it's not authoritarian. Libertarianism is just closer to anarchy than the right-left spectrum. Conservatism, progressivism, conservatism, liberalism. It's closer to authoritarianism, but it's not. Libertarian, closer to anarchy, but not. They're still pretty modern. They're still pretty reasonable. Which is why we still have a semi-functioning government. Now, to those who positive, those who like to say, well, libertarians are this way, libertarians are that way. I'm a libertarian, he's a libertarian, she's a libertarian, they're a libertarian, we're a libertarian. Libertarians, again, and it's the same thing. Rand Paul has been said as being a libertarian. He's not. He's your run-of-the-mill conservative in my mind. He's not a neoconservative, he's just a regular conservative, a Republican. A Tea Party Republican who has some principle, but mostly not, and is still, as most politicians are, very rarely find a politician who's not, no matter how much they say they aren't, they are bought off by somebody, even the ones we like, the ones I like. He's still corrupt, bought off, cares more about the interests of those who contributed to his campaigns and would keep him getting elected, rather than, and his party, obviously, as he showed, rather than the people, the Constitution, the Republic, liberty, equality, limited government, those ideas he doesn't really stick to. And there are a couple times where he's like, oh, well, this one instance, he's this way. Yeah, great, that's one instance. If you were to judge me on one instance, depending on the issue, you might think I'm a crazy right-wing conservative nutjob. On the other, you think I was a bleeding heart progressive communist. It depends. Okay, you have to look at all of it to get the picture. He's not. His father, closer. His father was kind of a moderate, classic liberal, a little bit closer to paleoconservatism, like Alex Jones, except for Ron Paul was principled. He actually would listen to what you had to say. He actually had certain lines. He said, fuck this, I don't cross it. That's why he wasn't elected, of course. I believe that's why, because that sort of principled honesty. It's like, no, I can't give you money. You won't take my money. You won't take my money for me to buy you. Well, fuck you. I'm not giving you money. I'm going to give it to Huckabee. I'm going to give it to whoever. So that's the thing. So Ron's close, but Rand Paul is not a libertarian. And the biggest argument I had with people about that was the Planned Parenthood. First of all, the video is a hoax. It's bullshit. I can go and do a video explaining that shit away and everything. And I like to do other videos about that. But when Rand came out saying, I want to defund Planned Parenthood, first off, he was writing the anger, frustration, and confusion of that video. And he was trying to use that to push his political career. That's one way you know he's a Republican. He's a Republican or Democrat, and almost an establishment one. The other thing is, he was talking about just defunding it, not talking about the benefits and the rest, not saying, well, yes, they may provide so much for the pro-life group, prenatal care and screenings to make sure the kid's okay, and screenings to make sure the mother's okay, and breast cancer and cervical cancer screenings, and, making sure that families are growing up healthy. You could go there and get directed to adoption groups, whatever. The focus was on abortion, which is very minimal of what it does. It's less than 10% of what Planned Parenthood focuses on. And that was the whole basis. The basis was the video, a concept that he doesn't like. He always kind of throws the classic bullshit, I think the states should decide, leave it to states' rights argument, which, I kind of agree to a certain point, but you could tell that he just didn't like it, but didn't want to piss off the independents and progressives and constitutionalists who were listening. The actual ones, not the ones who don't understand, and I'll get into that in the next thing. And he's not. His focus was the conservative idea. It was riding a political wave for his own benefit. Now, finally, Glenn Beck. But that's the thing too is before we go on to Glenn Beck, another thing with Rand Paul, he reduced the military a bit, and he was against the Patriot Act for taking away the Patriot Act. However, the military, he's actually flipped, and he's for funding the military, expanding the military. He's against the Iran deal. He's super up Israel's ass, and he is your typical conservative. He's anti-gay marriage. He came out after that court case. He's shown he's not a libertarian. He is a Republican. He's a conservative. Just like Alex Jones. Alex Jones is a conservative. He says, I may have libertarian leanings and shit. You don't have libertarian leanings. You're a conservative who's okay with marijuana, who's okay with marijuana and who's against the Patriot Act. That's it. But any sane person should be okay with marijuana and against the Patriot Act, because prohibition doesn't do shit, and that we have a constitution that states that we should be secure in our effects, our papers, our persons from unlawful search and seizure, unreasonable search and seizure. So no, just shut the fuck up. But lastly, Glenn Beck, who always says, I'm a libertarian. And what I can't get past is how these guys don't get it. But God, he always goes to that. I'm sorry, I get annoyed at Glenn Beck. I used to love Glenn Beck. I thought he was the one reasonable conservative. Then he went on his libertarian thing, and there's some shit he said that was just like, Glenn, you're right. But then, especially the gay marriage thing and the Planned Parenthood, he is a conservative. Now, he's either bought off and just trying to keep his audience for his ratings. He's either a sellout or fake. And they're both the same. Same with Rand Paul. Sellout or fake, they're both the same. He came out backlash and tried doing some, like, Selma-type march after the ruling on same-sex marriage. He's against a lot of rights of people. He doesn't understand. He's very pro-theocracy, which isn't libertarianism. Libertarianism is against all. It's against extreme government and against aggression. It's against forcing people to be a certain way, which is why most libertarians are pro-marriage equality. Because the same government, you can't tell people they can't be this way. They must be this way. Same as they're usually against and reject theocratic laws. They reject forcing prayer, forcing you to say, under God or in God, having God we trust on things. It's against that. It's against overtaxation because it's forcing people to pay for things a lot, forcing people to give up a lot of their paycheck for programs they don't even experience. And it's forced charity. There's a lot that goes into that. So that's libertarian. It's against forced ideology. It's against the use of force. The non-aggression principle I'm explaining. The use of force upon an individual citizen to be one way, to act one way, to believe one way, to do one way, for one sole purpose, to have a certain morality. That's what it is. It's about protecting the individual, about limiting government, and protecting freedom. So, I went on for a while. This isn't my longest video, but it's a damn long one. But in a nutshell, that's it. That's not everything about libertarianism. I'll go on it again about my views of libertarianism and that. But if you want to know who an actual libertarian is, look up Gary Johnson, former Governor Gary Johnson. He was a former governor of New Mexico, and he has ran for president before in 2011, 2012. He will be running again this time. He's running currently in the 2016 election. He is a libertarian. He was a Republican before, but he ran his state. He ran as he was a, very libertarian type governor. And just look into him. That's more of what a real actual libertarian would be like. And again, I'm not pulling out this true Scotsman fallacy. I'm just pointing out that these people are not libertarians, and showing you who actual libertarians are. A libertarian does not view the world that way. A libertarian does not act that way or propose those sorts of policies. It's conservatism, it's theocracy. It's the same with at least people like Bill Maher, who were once libertarians and claim to be libertarians. No, they're not. They come out and say, well, I was libertarian, I like the idea, but I'm actually a progressive. I believe in this big government watching over us. At least he's honest about that. People like Rand Paul, Alex Jones, and Glenn Beck use it, and people who support them use it to push an agenda or political gain. And it's wrong. It's wrong. Conservatives do it all the time. My congressional representative does it. He uses the term libertarian leaning, and I called his ass out on it. He doesn't like me for it. Probably doesn't even remember who I am. But, okay. Thank you again for listening. If you liked anything I had to say, please leave a like. If you have anything to say, please comment. Debate with me in that. I sound like a little assholey and bitchy sometimes. You never know. But it's the only way that we can really learn anything about each other and get anything done is conversing about it. Of course, if you want to see any other videos I've had or want to continue to see videos I come out with, whether it's political stuff, philosophical stuff, gaming, any other fun, cool crap I do or weird shit, please subscribe, and just have a good day. Thank you again for listening. This has been Mitch's Rant Time. Have a good night, and stay cool.